get started. Again, my name is Scott Charles. I'm the Trauma Outreach Coordinator. I'm going to walk you through the experiences of one of our gunshot victims, a young man named Lamont Adams. Lamont Adams was born December 10th, 1987 at Women's Hospital here in Philadelphia. It was a cold winter night. From the time he was born, his grandmother, Jenny Clark, raised Lamont as though Lamont was her own baby. And when his younger brother would come along, she would raise him too. The reason she raised Lamont as her own is because Lamont's own mother had problems taking care of him. And she loved that baby with all her heart. From the time he was born, she said he had a smile on his face. He was a big, fat, happy baby. She always had to make sure she had some kind of shopping cart, a stroller, or a neighbor's car to help transport him because his big, fat behind used to hurt her old hips. But she didn't care because, again, she loved this baby. And as he got older, he continued to show that bright personality. He liked to tell jokes. He was a funny kid. In fact, they used to say he'd be the next Eddie Murphy. When he was 16, he used to hold court out on his steps, and they used to call him the Prince of 27th Street because she never used to have to worry about where Lamont was because he was always right there, holding court. Never had to call his name. She knew where to find him. She could hear his voice. He had a raspy voice from the time he was a little kid. As he got older, he used to like to roll dice, too. He used to throw dice with his partners, the kids he had grown up with. One night when he was 16, he was throwing dice with his partners and he won some money. And he realized what time it was. Not like in the way you look at your watch and say, oh, look at the time, I better get out of here, I just want some money. But he really sincerely wanted to get home to his grandmother, Jenny, because Jenny would worry about him because he wasn't shooting dice on his steps this night. And soon after he left, the police came and broke up the dice game. Now, in Philadelphia, with all the shootings that we have, and we just had one this morning, the police are not trying to break up dice games. Okay, now they're not going to write up the paperwork. Every time they stop and make contact, there's a tremendous amount of paperwork that is supposed to go into that. So they're not trying to arbitrarily go around hunting down dice games. There's just too much in the city to deal with. So the most they can do is roof the dice, throw the dice up on the top of a house and tell the dudes to get on. Because it's a nuisance crime. It just makes the neighborhood look bad. So they did that. But see, young boys do what they do and haters do what they do, and that is they had to explain this somehow. They had to rationalize what are the chances that Lamont would win some money. And now, what kind of money are we talking about? We talking about hundreds of dollars? No. We're talking about maybe tens or 20s of, being thrown on the ground. He might have walked out with $50, maybe $100 at most. But these dudes were feeling some kind of way about having lost their money and having the police show up and ruin their chance to win more money. So they said Lamont must have done what? Snitched. Now he must have snitched. Now you know the police are not trying to break up dice games. So what's the good of Lamont snitching? Now word got back to Lamont that he was a snitch, and he knew what that meant. So as he sat down at dinner on September 22nd, 2004, roughly around 9 o'clock in the evening, he was eating with his grandmother, and he pulled out a pen, and on a piece of napkin he began to write what would become his obituary. Lamont Adams, son of so-and-so, gunned down in North Philadelphia. And he folded up that napkin and he continued to eat. And when he finished eating, he went upstairs to his room, and as his grandmother cleaned up as she would do, she found this napkin and found this obituary. And she confronted Lamont and asked him, Lamont, baby, what is this about? And he said, Grandma, I'm just messing around. She said, baby, are you in some kind of trouble? If you are, just talk to me. You know you can tell Grandma anything. He said, Grandma, I'm just messing around. There's no need to trip. So his grandmother hoped against hope that he was just joking and that this was some kind of game. But then the next night, almost 24 hours later, at 9 o'clock, he stepped outside the house and told his grandmother, Grandma, I'll see you later. And he walked about a block from his house. He was at the corner of 27th and Cambria when a car pulled up and another young man got out the car, and this time this man had a .40 caliber handgun and shot Lamont and dropped him with his first shot. And then a young boy, 18 years old, walks over to where Lamont is now lying and proceeds to shoot him at least a dozen times more. Now an officer responded to those gunshots, and he found Lamont lying there in a pool of his own blood, and he was barely breathing, and he was only really able to gurgle up some noise. And the officer did what we call a scoop and run. In Philadelphia, unlike most metropolitan areas, the officers can put you in the back of their car and will do so and bring you here. And you hear young folks who feel some kind of way about the police, but what they don't understand is in Philly, they bring us about a third of our gunshot patients. They come by car, they come by paddy wagon. And if it weren't for these officers throwing these young dudes in the back of the squad car, our body count would be tremendously higher than it is right now. So that officer threw them on the back of his squad car, came down Germantown Avenue this way, pulled into this parking lot where you see the ambulance pulling up right now, and he would have come in and he would have yelled in for the helps that he had a young person in the back of his squad car with gunshots. And then the call would go out over the intercom and they would hit us on our pages, and you would hear what you'll probably hear today, which is attention please, pediatric trauma category 1, pediatric trauma category 1. And those are the most severe pediatric cases, gunshot wounds and stab wounds. And that call would have gone out over the system. The medical professionals would have gotten it, and they would have come down to the trauma bay that I'm going to take you to right now. Now, before we go in, do you have any questions? Nothing? All right, I'm going to ask you to follow me. Everybody, I'm Scott Charles. Nice to meet you. Okay. I'm going to ask, can I ask you to do me a favor, young man? And I'm only asking you this because you're roughly the build that Lamont was. And I want this to be as accurate as possible. Can I ask you to lie in for Lamont? I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to cut you much. You're like, it's not funny, huh? I'm going to ask you to take can you take your coat off for me? And do you have anything on your waist, like a phone or anything, or handgun, anything you worry about? You ain't the only one. What's your name, man?
Derek.
Derek, I'm Scott, man. Nice to meet you. How old are you, Derek? Perfect. That's Lamont's age, right? I'm going to ask you to put your hands down at your side.
Yeah.
All right. So Derek might be roughly Lamont's size. Lamont might have been a little thicker around the shoulders. You know, he was a big fat baby. It took him a while to get that baby fat off, and he was working on it as he got into his late teens. Again, it's about 9:15 by the time the cop made it to here, by the time they got him on the table, by the time everybody would have responded. In this room, about 10 people would have shown up. There would have been nurses, there would have been people from the emergency department, there would have been the trauma team, and it essentially would have been organized chaos. It's really kind of quiet right now. It's clean as you look at the floor. It's a pretty clean floor. This would have been a bloodbath. Just from the time it took them to take him and throw him onto this bed, blood would be going everywhere. People are now yelling at each other, telling each other what to do. There would be the attending surgeon who's going to be standing back there, basically as the coach. His job is to, or her job now that we have Polly, is to stand back and basically coach this thing. And they're going to stand there with their arms folded and make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. And they'll jump in when necessary. So, again, it's about 9:15. It was a late fall, or late summer, early fall evening. The temperature was roughly like it was today. He's dressed roughly like Lamont was dressed that night. It doesn't really matter. They take shears like this. These are actually pediatric shears. And they begin cutting the clothes off. They'll run the clothes up, the shears up each leg, cut across, rip the pants off, cut the drawers off, go right up the shirt, take that off, and within seconds he'll be here completely naked. Okay? And then the process of checking to see where the injuries are begins. You see here there are pieces of tape, and usually these pieces of tape will have paper clips attached to them. And the reason that is they want to take the paper clips and put them over the wounds so that when they roll in the portable x-ray machine, the place where the entry wound is will show up on the x-rays. They'll have a sense of what the trajectory of the bullet is based on where those paper clips are. And so they'll begin taping that on the injuries. Okay, and I'm going to show you just about where all of the injuries were based on Lamont's actual medical record. You don't mind if I put some stickers on you, do you? All right, they come up.
You got this far?
Yeah, man. This is the easy part.
A nap, stickers, a lollipop?
No, they're not Dora stickers.
Oh, okay.
Lamont would have had a bullet hole there. 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 He would have had a bullet hole there. He would have had a bullet hole there. Lamont would have also had bullet holes there. And there. He also would have had bullet holes there. And there. Okay. Tell me your name again, partner. Derek. Do me a favor. Carefully roll over onto your stomach, okay? And I'm going to ask you to keep your hands at your side. All right? Put your hands down at your side. Okay? And scoot your behind up toward the middle, if you will. All right. Perfect. All right. The mom would have had bullet holes here, 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 here. What do you notice about those bullet holes?